Let's talk herd. And I think there is a bit of experience involved in that I think the people who maybe for whatever reason in their life aren't able to just like go through that, see that or embrace that as an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
It's because they just haven't had experience of that. It's not something that you like, for example, that terrible feeling I had when I woke up. I know that does not stay there.
Yeah.
That if I go into that it will I know about resolution because I've just experienced it a lot of times. So I know it's like with your pain, like you learn. I don't know if you learn, but you experience that pain is transient.
Yeah.
Everything is transient.
Yeah.
But so people who aren't able to do that yet, it's just, I think, maybe a lack of experience of that things shift and that.
Yeah.
Because it seems like we will do a lot to avoid going there, to avoid that. Because we don't, like you're saying, we don't seem to realize it is us. You can't get away from you. Like, you can move to another country and another continent, but you're still taking you with you.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, it seems so obvious, but in a way, we kind of miss that point a lot.
Yeah, and we're talking about how all of this is to help us see the fullness of ourself and our richness, and when I think about how we can reject the parts of us that we feel should be better or shouldn't be suffering, this abandonment of ourselves is also at the root of why we're motivated to criticize and change. And so what's the solution? The solution's just like, oh, everything's good. Bring it on. Everything is there for me to feel great. What? Yeah. Even suffering is there for me to feel great? Yeah, because it's like part of you. So as soon as you love it and be with it, you're literally filling yourself up. And it might take time, but
Yeah, and I think that thing of suffering is that in a way we've created that.
Yeah.
We've created the concept and we've put it into practice as such, like we've made it real in our world.
Yes.
And actually when you can be with it in a different way, like not I'm trying to describe how that feels, because it was something that I was aware of when this thing happened with Gracie, and it was like a war zone and it was horrible and it was just it was so horrible. But then I remembered I can still be in a beautiful state of mind during this. I can still embrace it. I can still not judge it as suffering.
That's right.
I mean, if you wanted to pick hairs or whatever it is, pull hairs. What is it? What's that phrase?
Oh, I don't know.
I can't remember. If you wanted to argue, split hairs. Then you could say that, well, I wasn't the one who was physically suffering, which is true. But I mean, obviously that's another thing. But in that situation, I could still decide and choose not to suffer.
Yes.
Not to...
Well, it's the difference between... Yes, what you were saying is how you see suffering, because the word suffering is quite laden with associations, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And I like to think, I like the word dissonance. I really love that word because if we come back to music and we all have a song to sing, and that music is vibration and energy. And you can really enjoy some dissonance. Like what I'm trying to think of an example, like when you have a passing note in music, you have the resolution of the final chord, but there's one note that's a semitone out, and you're just waiting for that to resolve.
Yes.
And so, you know, there is a type of pleasure.
It's leverage, isn't it? It's a leverage.
Absolutely.
It's like contrast again, isn't it? It's like being really hot and bothered and thirsty, and then having that cold drink, and it tastes like amazing because of where you are. Yeah.
So that's what we said about the beauty that is waiting for you to experience it is in measure of the discomfort that you might feel just before.
Yeah.
You know, they're really inextricably linked.
Yeah.
And I really liked what you said as well about when you were in that dark place, when you were thinking about what happened with Gracie, that you were able to see that, well, being aware of that dissonance is not exclusive. It doesn't mean that you are unaware of the harmony, because we can exist on several planes simultaneously. You know, they don't just disappear, but we do have that impression sometimes, don't we? When we're really at the bottom of something, we start to feel that is the only reality, and that's when I think it becomes hard.
Yeah, because when I think about it in those terms, when I think back on the experience, there was what was happening, and then the part of me that was not joining in the suffering part was like embracing the whole thing. Like energetically, it felt like being just like a big cuddle, like an embrace around the whole thing. And just like not having to be, it's almost like not being linear about it.
Yes.
Like not getting too involved, because the more involved in the inside of it that you get, I think the more linear the more single note you become. Like you're just only aware of a less of a, like more monochrome or mono. That's something I always really notice with horses when you're, especially in riding. Like if a horse has been really institutionalized, when you know, in the way that they go when you're riding them, they feel so monochrome, like just one shade, like so stuck on all these different, I don't know about stuck, but just one one frequency. Like they don't have that. And like you were saying with the orchestra, it's the range that's so beautiful. Like, and that's what feels so amazing when like, for example, when Karamba invites me to get on her, it's not what we're doing, because so far we've only like walked about. It's the range that's there in her energy, like just this. It's amazing. It's like a whole symphony of her, because she's completely alive and still there. And still, whereas I think we tend, because we want to shuttle or channel the horse into this way of going, we're shutting down all these little parts of them that might not be coming with us. So we just...
Gosh, you could say the same thing for the person. So hold on, can we just say exactly what you said? It's like channeling so that they, you know, produce the way of going that we want for them. And we can put I to that. I channel myself so that I produce the way of going that I think is appropriate for me.
Exactly.
And we're hard with our horses, and we can be hard with ourselves. And why not just soften everything and say, well, I'm not going to channel.
Yeah, God, it's
Let's
such a
live
relief, though,
all of
isn't
the
it?
harmonies, like releasing birds. Imagine like it's releasing birds, and we cannot decide where they're going to fly.
Yeah,
And we just release them and just watch.
yeah. And that's the beauty, because then you get to see all of these amazing stories or journeys or relationships with the birds and where they go and what they do. And there's no question of controlling it, because the control is the opposite of the beauty of it.
And the harmony that we couldn't even imagine when you see the flocks of birds, as an example, that seem to move as one.
Yeah.
And when they turn, it looks like smoke because there are parts more
So
dense
amazing.
than others, and it's so harmonious. And you think, this is so beautiful and perfect, and so much bigger than me. Of course, I don't want to channel. Oh no, I would far rather just watch the spectacle and enjoy.
And in watching it, you are it as well.
That's it.
Like, you are aligning and you're being it as well. So it's like, especially if you can be it through your heart, and feel. I love the way birds are so, like, they just are source. They're like little kind of balls of source that just are joy, and like they're just so kind of unlimited in a way. And I suppose that's kind of expressed in how they can fly and they can go everywhere, and it's so amazing. Yeah. It's like, and it is like, because I think we go around in spirals, though. It's like recently I've just been through this whole thing of trying to kind of like strategize, like you say, a bit, doing that Tony Robbins seminar. And it was really, I did really think it was very valuable for some of the meditations that we did. They were definitely a one-way thing. I don't understand why anyone would want to do that again, because it's something that you do.
All right, okay.
Once, I would say. Like the one in particular I found like really powerful, incredibly powerful, was when I'm trying to think of the details of it now. What you got yourself in like your highest vibration, like where you feel like, is your ultimate goal of where you want, not so much goal, I don't like that word, but just your ultimate expression of yourself. So you get into that place, and then you start to like he would like start to take you back years in your life. And it was so physically powerful for me, because I could feel it. It was like, and it was supposed to be like you were going back like a slingshot. So you could feel the resistance building. So it was taking you back to times when you didn't believe in yourself, and all the struggles and the conditioning, and all the way back to when you were really young. And like by the time you got there, you were like, oh my God, I cannot stand the pressure of it. It was like the slingshot was really, really far back. And it was like amazing. And you could really understand why you had been so, and you actually, for me, I remembered that these like horrible states of mind that I've forgotten long since,
Right. That's incredible, because that was what I lived. Yeah. That was what exploded for me like yesterday.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, so powerful. And then I can't even remember, like, really, I can't actually remember how it happened. But it was like you released it. You just released it and you went, whoosh, like whooshing back back to where you want to be, sort of thing. And it's like you let it all go. You just let it all go, and you're back and then you're like in this like high place again. And that was amazing. Right, so that was amazing. But then what I found quite disappointing, actually, I have to say, was that then there were two very distinct parts of it. Like one part of it was that was those things that were really, really powerful. And then there was this other, like, hard, I can only call it the hard sell element of it.
Ah, okay.
Where they literally used time from that course to sell the next courses and to kind of try and sell you on it. And it wasn't done in a particularly subtle way. It was like,
it was just
ridiculous in a way. Like, for me, it felt so jarring to what we'd just done.
Oh,
and especially as the timing, like we're talking about, this was like the middle of the night. Like the first one started for us at 3 p.m. and then it went on till 5 a.m. in the morning. Okay. So that's that's great. That's fine if you're doing stuff that you feel is very constructive. But then if you start to be bombarded,
oh yes,
by this machine that's telling you, okay, you've got there, you've done it, but in order to stay there, you need to do this. And it's like, oh my God. So so I can't remember why I started. Oh yeah, so I started all of that story because we were talking about, you know, how we tend to look for strategies, and we look for, like, you can go along. So I felt like I was going along in the way of just accepting things and allowing things and everything. But then you start to think, well, what am I truly changing things? And are things going to work out? And, you know, have I really, because certain things, like financially, and, you know, certain things aren't, like the results are not there yet. So that's when I start to strategize. I start to think, okay, I need to do this course. I need to do, and that course was amazing. I was really glad I did it, but it hasn't really, I think, like you say, you still have to, it's not the solution. Like, you can't force things to happen. You can't force it. So I think you just have to.
It's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because this word solution implies that there's a problem, and yet we know everything's perfect.
Well, yes. Exactly.
And yet we do kind of fall into this regularly about thinking, oh, I want to find a solution for this. So how could we change that then? What could we say? So I see this thing, I can imagine this thing that would be so great to experience that. And I feel that, you know, it's really wholesome, and I really feel that, you know, I would be aligned with that. So I'm going to feel my way to that rather than saying I'm going to find a solution for the problem. Well, there is no problem. There's just this delicious thing that you want to experience.
Yeah.
Interesting, isn't it, our choice?
Yeah. And I really felt like the main thing that I wanted to do, or just want to do, is just kind of two things. But the main thing is 90% of the time, just be appreciating what I am doing right now and what I am experiencing right now. Yeah, and that there is no need, like you say, there's no need for anything else, because it's perfect and it's wonderful, and, you know, it's enough, and just that absolute 100% commitment to these experiences that I'm having now, and really see the beauty, really feel the beauty, and you know, enjoy the food, or so that, and then the other part of the time, I think, just really enjoy the daydreaming and the possibilities, you know, like what can be, or what you think would make you happy, because actually it's not the thing itself, it's the thinking of it that is so wonderful, isn't it? Like when you imagine, like, for example, having, like, I would love to have a conservatory, like a solarium, I don't know what you call it different languages, but just a place where where you can have trees that are growing inside and that you can sit outside as if you're inside, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so just imagining that, imagining being in that, imagining taking my coffee in there and sitting in there, sitting in there with friends. That's as joyful as it being there, isn't it? I mean, there's
absolutely, because they say that whatever you are allowing to filter through your mind, the body doesn't know that it's not real. The body lives it as though it's real.
Absolutely, that's it. Yeah. And you are experiencing it, aren't you? I mean, you're experiencing.
Yeah. And that vibration, because the body thinks it's real, well, that vibration is benefiting your whole being.
Yeah.
And changing, like in each cell of your body, that vibration is penetrating each cell of your body and helping you take a step towards that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it is difficult not to fall into, I'm looking for a strategy that will take me towards that concrete reality, where actually the top priority is to feel good and to enjoy the moment and to be connected with what we're feeling.
Yeah, because I think we've got this thing about, I think maybe it's because we know that there's more. Like we know we could be more joyful, more loving, more.
Yes.
So therefore instead of going in for it, we go out for it.
That's right. Yes, we look for it outside.
Yeah.
Whereas actually everything is already there within us and we just need to feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And what I wanted to say as well is that it's totally natural for us to want and to desire and to feel this pull constantly towards other things because we're made for expansion and it's very joyous and it's not at all wrong, you know?
Absolutely. That's something that I've kind of really absorbed or understood or over the last, I don't know, 5 years probably. Because I've had quite a deep conditioning that was wrong, and I think that comes from Christianity and spirituality. Like a lot of spiritual teachings, or however you want to say, they're kind of like our dogma. It's like that we've got this human failing of wanting more and
That's
desire.
Right,
Even the word desire has all these associations that, like, it's the same as greed, and I think that is a misinterpretation of what that is. I really think it is just, but it's our joy, or the joy we take in expansion, and
exactly.
Yeah, and it's like the opposite of stagnating. It's like,
and why do we have this wonderful imagination? Because we're made to imagine movement and evolution and development. You know,
exactly.
It's one of our gifts. And I think you're right when you talk about spirituality as sort of being misinterpreted on that point of the present moment, loving what is. Absolutely. It doesn't mean to say that we can't imagine, because in imagining, that's when we feel good. That's when we're living it, even though in the reality, when we open our eyes and we look around us, perhaps it's not actually there yet. Thinking about your conservatory. But the conservatory is already there, like the baby. Like, you're talking about being pregnant. And so, we can, with our imagination, already be living the experience that feels really good. And that's when it becomes the present moment. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Something that doesn't exist already can actually exist for our present moment. All we need to do is give our attention to it. Isn't it lovely?
True. Yeah, exactly. Because I think that's when you're not what's the word? You're not kind of imprisoned by the external world. Like, because when you're too focused on what actually is there, like, or what you even, I mean, because even that is a bit of an illusion, but say, you say, I can't be happy because I don't have the car out there on the driveway. And I can't drive it and experiencing it, but you can experience the feelings, because we have all of the feelings. It's like we have all of the feelings that drugs can make us feel. Because we've got the receptors, we have to formulate the neurotransmitters or and whatever makes us feel like that, and we do have that ability.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because if we come back to the different versions of us that are available, so if we take the example of the car not being in the driveway, but the desire for that car being there, it's like, well, am I going to give my attention to the version of me that is, there is no car in my driveway and I want it so bad?
The lack.
Or are we going to see the version of ourselves that is, oh, aren't these cars just great? And we don't even care if it's in the driveway or not, you know, because the car's great. And being grateful and finding the joy, and finding that good feeling, delicious feeling.
And just imagining like if you watch somebody else driving a car like that, you can really feel what it would feel like, and you can also feel their joy in it. Yeah, it's definitely just it's a state of mind. Like, it doesn't matter if you are actually doing it. I mean, I suppose there is joy in manifesting as well, but that does happen, doesn't it? When you
and it's more joyous when it happens spontaneously, when you've not put anything in place to work towards it, but you've just vibrated that joyous feeling.
You haven't resisted it not being there.
Yeah, and like when it manifests, it's like, oh my goodness, this is so delicious. Because it's true, isn't it? If you go to a lovely restaurant and the plate is put down in front of you, that adds something to the pleasure of the meal. If you've had to slave over a hot stove and create the meal yourself, lay the table, and then you've got to think about doing the dishes later.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy, actually. Yeah, so true. It just doesn't taste the same. Wow. Yeah, I really think that's the solution. And it's just, I think the more you remind yourself, like the more you're in a situation where you remind yourself how much you can appreciate. And because I wrote down the other day, because I'm doing these little it's actually on the body groove thing that I've got. It's an app for dancing, and there's also these little meditation things, like inspirational talks, and you're supposed to write down everything that you have in your life that you enjoy. And you know, I realized after I'd written them, like, I wrote about 20 things, and really that's all that I do. Like, I'm already doing everything that I love. It's all, you know. So I mean, there's nothing to really search for.